Hey guys, hope you guys are all having a great day and a great week so far. Welcome to our Thursday Topaz AMA. Got a lot of exciting updates for you guys today. We put out a new release just a couple days ago that I'm going to be showing you guys and show you how why Topaz built this and what it does for Topaz and just a little bit about the project itself, and as well as a bunch of other updates for you guys. So let's dive right into it. Actually, before we start talking about 44, got a couple other updates for you guys first. We got a couple big listings for Topaz. So we're now officially in Binance Wallet. So the Topaz token is officially in Binance Wallet as well as our dApp. So anyone that's using Binance Wallet that can, that's using their, browser to, pick a dApp to interact with, Topaz is, right within the wallet and fully supported by Binance there. And we're just waiting to get a post out from them. I'm sure they're going to be posting about the integration soon. So that should be a nice catalyst for Topaz and get a lot of new eyes and attention on Topaz. So really looking forward to that. Unfortunately, I don't have access to Binance here in Canada, so I haven't been able to play around with it too much myself. But anyone that does have a Binance account, feel free to pop into their wallet and check out Topaz and let us know what you think. Another big listing that we just got finalized in the last couple of days is we're now on DAppBay. Actually, I can pull that up for you guys. So we are now on DAppBay. This is like the premier BNB chain place that you want to get your dApps listed. Okay, nice. They're actually tracking. This is the first time I've seen that they've just started tracking our user count and transactions. It looks like. So yeah, so the Topaz dApp is fully listed on DAppBay. It's right alongside PancakeSwap and all the other dApps on BNB chain. They have a pretty rigorous process to vet projects before they get listed on DAppBay. And if there's anything wrong with the projects, they'll definitely throw you in the red alarm category. And Topaz passed with flying colors, got a full-blown DAppBay listing, which I know ever since we launched Topaz, a lot of our BNB chain connections had kept mentioning to us to you got to get that DAppBay listing set up, and we had a couple things that we had to get lined up before we could put through a proper application. But once we did that, of course, we did get approved after about a week of waiting. So actually, before I forget, if you guys can go to our DAppBay listing for Topaz Dex and leave us a nice review. That does help our visibility on DAppBay. I think another big factor for visibility is just them being able to see like the user count and transactions, and it looks like that just started getting tracked yesterday, it looks like. So that's really going to help our visibility on DAppBay as well. But if you guys can just head over to DAppBay and connect your wallet and drop us a review, that would really help. Let me post a link to this in the chat for you guys. You can just go right to the homepage and search Topaz as well. And it'll pop up just like that. All right, so let's talk about a couple major updates to our own ecosystem, and I got quite a few for you guys. Let's start with the probably what I'm going to consider one of the more exciting ones that I'm going to talk about today, and that's going to be basically what we've built as a showcase app for Topaz and the Topaz ecosystem. So this one is called 44. The website's burn44.com. This is a Topaz project, so this is part of the Topaz ecosystem. And this project does a lot to benefit Topaz, and as well, I think it's a really innovative project in itself that really has a lot of potential on its own. So basically what I'm going to go over with Burn44 is, first I'll talk about what it's about, and then I'm going to talk about, how it works with Topaz and what it does for Topaz. So, well, first, why don't you guys tell me in chat, have you guys already checked out 44? I know we did make an announcement about this, and we also mentioned this on our Tuesday BNB Season X Space. But yeah, this is you guys know me, I come up with ideas all the time. So this was just like an idea that I came up with that I just, kept improving on in my head. And then eventually I just like, you know what, I got to build this. And just, the tie-in with Topaz is really incredible too. So I guess like just to start with the origin of how I even came up with this idea is, I noticed a surge in tax tokens on BNB chain. I'm not sure if maybe 4Meme somewhat recently started allowing people to create tax tokens, but I noticed, typically tokens don't have a tax, and I just noticed that, recently a lot of the launches were having taxes. So I was thinking, with Topaz concentrated liquidity, we have a lot of flexibility in terms of LP fees, like what you can set the trading fee to. And so I figured, you could essentially have a fully permissionless, like decentralized protocol or, token and LP where it's not a tax token, but it gets a lot of the benefits of a tax token. So that's kind of like where the origin of this idea came from, and just the ability to build in a lot of like gamification and fun aspects that are like directly built on top of Topaz primitives or Topaz features. So let me just also preface this all by saying while this is a Topaz project, like obviously our focus is 100% on Topaz. This is not something that we're gonna like build out like a full like marketing department to push this. This is just something that's gonna be part of the Topaz ecosystem. It's already listed on Topaz ID as one of our apps that supports Topaz ID, and it's going to just be part of the ecosystem. So as Topaz gets more attention on it, I expect this project to get more attention on it as well, and vice versa. Like I think this project is super innovative, and I think it could really gain some traction, and that's going to be great for Topaz in terms of getting eyes on Topaz and the different features and things that Topaz brings to the table. So I think they can both feed off of each other essentially. But essentially what this is it's an innovative way to launch a token and to have a permanently deflationary token that is basically permissionless, and it all happens automatically with smart contracts. So just real quick, like the way that this launched is it just launched with 100% of the tokens in a single Topaz concentrated liquidity LP. So there was no, for this particular project, there was no launch pad, there's no team tokens, nothing of the sort. It was just, the supply was 444,444. There's a theme of fours with this project. That's something fun I wanted to do with it. So there was 444,444 tokens, and 100% of them were created in that initial LP. Now, that initial LP, we custom set it to basically have a high trading fee. The trading fee, you can actually see right down here. So this is showing this. I'm going to talk about this in a second. It's like the gamification aspect of this. The lowest the trading fee can be is 1.1111%, and it can spike as high as 4.4444%. And this is using the Topaz dynamic fee, as part of our concentrated liquidity fee tools that we have available. So like we use dynamic fees very extensively on all of our major pairs. So we do that obviously just so that when there's volatility, our pairs can take in more fees, and it just helps us to generate more fees for our VE Topaz holders. But we use that same technology, that same dynamic fee module, to basically have a scaling fee on 44, although with a very high scaling factor. So it doesn't take much of a buy at all to really push the fee up towards the higher levels. So what that does is it kind of makes it kind of creates like a bit of a game, like it gamifies it, where like if let's just say some KOL posts about 44 and a couple people buy the token, all of a sudden the fee is going to jump up to around 4%. So now anybody else that wants to buy the token, they have to think, well, do I wait for the fee to drop, or do I just buy it now with the higher fee? And then if you wait and somebody else buys it before you, well, then the fee is going to jump back up again, and now you're stuck with that same question, although the price of the token's higher now. So, and the same thing goes for if the price is dropping, right? If just say some big holder sells, a big chunk of their holdings, and now the fee is going to go up because of the volatility. And if people start getting scared, they think, oh, okay, well, do I sell now with the high fee, or do I wait for the fee to drop? Or, it basically just gamifies the whole process of just buying and selling the token. Let's do a quick demo. So I've got a Topaz ID connected with a little bit of BNB in it. So let's just buy 0.15 BNB and see what that does to the fee here. So I'm going to go ahead and confirm that buy. A little pop-up just showed up with Topaz ID. I'm just going to approve that. So before I even got the confirmation on my transaction there, you can see the fee went right to 2.844%, went to warm. So you can see it shows that the fee is heating up, and we got a nice gauge here that kind of shows exactly what the fee is doing. So here, let's just go ahead and fire another one off. What is the added value? Yeah, I'm going to get to that. Like I said, I'm going to talk extensively about what this does for Topaz. So you can see buying the token, it's the trading fee just increased. So now anyone that's buying or selling the token right now is going to be paying a 4% trading fee. So the cool thing about this is I didn't mention yet like what happens with the trading fee. Well, I guess like I somewhat did. So this again, this is taking advantage of the unique aspects of Topaz and being able to custom set a fee to anything, to anything on a particular pool, and dynamic fees. Now, that initial LP that this token launched in, that LP is permanently locked in a smart contract, and that smart contract, essentially what it does is it is able to claim the trading fees, and it uses that to buy and burn the token. So essentially, that's what allows us to be a permanently deflationary token without a tax on it. It's a regular ERC20. There's no hooks on transfers. There's, so it's basically it doesn't come with all the problems that typically come with a tax token. And you can see right here exactly how much fees have been accumulated that haven't yet been burned. And anybody can just come here and hit this button to torch. I'll do it right now with my Topaz ID. I got connected, and this is going to then take the BNB and 44 tokens that are trading fees, and it's going to use those to essentially buy the token and permanently burn it. And then you got a meter up here that shows what percent of the supply has been burned so far. So I think that's it for covering most of the unique aspects of Burn 44. I'm going to talk in a second about what it does for Topaz. But yeah, in terms of, essentially a big reason why this project was built as well is that we are launching a huge hackathon in the near future. We're just putting we're just finalizing exactly what it's going to look like in terms of the requirements for the hackathon and what the prizes are going to be and the exact time that it's going to be running. So this is like a showcase of just like what can be built on top of Topaz, just as like an example, because this it integrates Topaz ID, which is a huge part of the Topaz ecosystem. It uses it launched with an innovative way on top of Topaz concentrated liquidity. It takes advantage of custom fees per pool. It takes advantage of dynamic fees. And there's a lot, there's automation and smart contracts built on top of, fee collection and, that aspect of the LPs. So it does integrate, as much as possible, we integrated this on top of Topaz features. So what it does for Topaz is, for one, like I already mentioned, like one of the smaller things is that it, when this gets attention and traction, it's going to bring more attention to Topaz, and it also does a great job demonstrating what you can do with Topaz, what you can build on top of Topaz. But as well, this is something that I think has a lot of potential. It's something that can if it gets volume, it's going to pump the Topaz numbers, and with it having such a high fee, it's really going to pump the Topaz numbers in terms of fee generation, which is one of the most critical metrics for us to be increasing. So with its fee that scales between about 1% and 4%, any volume on this is going to do a really great job of just really getting those Topaz metrics going in the right direction. So yeah, I think it's something that can bring awareness to Topaz. I think it's something that can really boost Topaz metrics, and I think it's just something fun that we can play around with in the ecosystem, and connect up your Topaz ID. And there, while all the tokens did launch in the LP, I did buy some with the Topaz Treasury that we can use for giveaways and competitions, just to within Topaz and within 44, right? I think we're going to be starting a buy competition in Topaz and also in 44, and both of them we're going to be rewarding in 44 tokens. So that's pretty much it for this. Again, if you guys want to check this out, it's burn44.com. Oh, and I almost forgot. 10% of the fees that it gets in BNB from trading fees are going directly to Topaz, and they will be used to buy Topaz on the open market. So again, the more action this gets, it's just very bullish for Topaz, because every aspect of it was designed on top of Topaz, around Topaz, to build awareness for Topaz, and to generate buy pressure for Topaz. So that's what we got going on with Burn 44. Let me catch up on some of these comments here. And by the way, I spent a little bit of time mining this contract address, but this contract address starts with 5 4s and it ends with 5 4s. I was going to go for 6 4s in the front and back, but it was going to take me like 2 days to find one of those on my GPU, so I decided to just stick with 5. Let me catch up on these comments. Off topic, question about locking in the locks. If this is about relays, I'm going to talk about those in a minute. And it looks like somebody already answered you. Yeah, I'll be talking about relays pretty shortly. Is it designed to connect with Topaz ID or also with other wallets like Grabby? It connects with every kind of wallet. Just like everything in the Topaz ecosystem moving forward is always going to support Topaz ID, but it'll always support traditional wallets as well. But yeah, this works. This is just it's a regular token, right? Like this is something that you can buy it right on Topaz DApp. You don't have to use the website to buy it. You know, it's a regular token. It's just a regular token that happens to have an LP that has, you know, higher trading fees than usual and has dynamic fees with very high scaling, right? So, you know, you can see like the fee jumped up to almost max just from a couple of those sample buys that I did earlier, and now it's, you know, it's cooling down back towards the low amount. Let's pop another buy in there for fun. So I'm guessing I'm just buying 0.1 BNB, so I'm guessing it's going to go up to like 3%, or yeah, it went to just shy of 3%. Well, we got a lot of viewers watching us. Topaz Dex has almost 1,000 viewers watching the stream right now. Usually we're in the 200 or 300 range. So welcome everybody, everyone that's watching for the first time. Welcome to the Topaz stream. Another great week, another opportunity to build positions. 100%, my man. But you have to set slippage based on the floating percent. That's a great question. So the reason why I love this question so much is, you know, there's a lot of negatives with the traditional tax token, and that is like one of the biggest ones, right? Like if you have a tax token where the tax is say 3%, because the output is 3% less than what you're going to get quoted, you always have to set your slippage at like 3.5 or 4% to you know, accommodate that tax that's on the token. Because this fee is part of the pool, it's already part of the estimated output. So I think I do have the slippage actually set pretty high and as a default here. Like, yeah, so like I have the default slippage set at 2%, but I mean, really you can set this as low as you want because the estimated output is already factoring in the pool fee. That's not something custom that I did on this site. That's just the nature of how it works getting a quote from our router. Or even an aggregator, like if you're buying this through like OX, for example, they're going to already factor in that pool fee. So you don't have to worry about slippage on that. But great question. I guess actually real quick while we're talking about that, I guess we'll talk about some of like the typical disadvantages of a tax token, which is, you know, lack of DeFi composability. You know, they don't work in concentrated liquidity pools. There's a lot of DeFi a lot of aspects of DeFi and just compatibility with other protocols that you can't really do with a tax token just because of, you know, the hooks that it has on transfer. And, you know, obviously just when you transfer the token, the amount received is less than what you send. So that just kind of breaks a lot of logic in DeFi. So yeah, so I mean, here you get the, you know, natural buy and burn, and you don't have a tax on the token. It's just a regular ERC20 token. I guess, you know, I think I might have already mentioned this, but there's a contract that's holding the LP that has it permanently locked. It's called the fee engine contract. And that's just, again, it's a contract where the LP is permanently locked. It can never be removed. It's a pretty simple contract. You guys can go check out the code. You know, I always verify the source code of every contract I ever deploy. So you guys can go check that out if you want. And yeah, I mean, anybody can burn, anybody can, you know, kick in the buy and burn, and it's basically just going to operate this way forever until the supply, you know, severely dwindles down, and you know, it should be bullish for the token price and the project, and should bring a lot of attention to Topaz. So hope you guys enjoy this, and if you haven't given this a shot, I'd say, you know, definitely play around with it and tell me what you guys think. This is already listed as an official app in the Topaz ID. I'm going to be talking a bunch about Topaz ID got a lot of huge improvements coming to the Topaz ID portal. I might showcase a couple of those features. They're not live yet. They're on my local dev server, but I'll probably showcase some of the updates that are coming to that. So I'm going to move on now. Does anybody have any questions about 44 or what you can do with it or how it integrates Topaz or anything like that? Feel free to ask. Or if you think of a question later, of course, you can ask it then. All right, so moving on. So I'm going to quickly talk about the Telegram bot, the Topaz Dex Telegram bot. I don't have anything I can show you on my screen for this, so I guess I'll just make myself full screen for a second here. Yeah, so our Topaz Dex Telegram bot, really proud of what we've done with that. I'd say about a month ago we made it fully multi-tenant, meaning that any of our partners or really anyone that has an LP on Topaz, they can add the Topaz Dex bot to their Telegram group. That'll give you buy notifications. That'll give you vote notifications for when someone votes on your gauge on Topaz. And now just within the last couple of days, I put out a ton of updates to it. So now within the mini app associated with the bot, you can now set, fully configure your group. So what does that mean, fully configuring your group? It means like, basic stuff like setting the emoji on your buy notifications or setting, how many, how often, like how many emojis you want to come up. So if you want like an emoji for every $20 of the buy or every $50 or whatever settings you want to put there. But the more exciting stuff is, so what you can do with the Topaz Dex bot is, so if you're a partner of Topaz, well, really anybody can add Topaz Dex bot to their group and do this stuff. So you add your token to Topaz Dex bot, and that of course enables the buy notifications and tracking. But this can also track positions of your users. So your users can basically open the Telegram mini app on our bot, and they can securely connect their wallet. Now they have to sign a message in order to connect their wallet. So they basically have to have signing rights on their wallet. It doesn't cost them anything, it's just signing a message. But this is as secure as it gets in terms of connecting a wallet with the Telegram account. So what happens at that point is the Telegram bot can now track the holdings of all the wallets connected to each of the users. And not only the token holdings, but it can also track their LP holdings, their staked LPs, in the particular project. So for Topaz itself, that would be, holding Topaz token, or like having a Topaz LP, so like Topaz USDT or like Topaz BNB, and having that staked. That'll all give you points within the group. So now, what you can do as users get more points, they reach different tiers of membership, I guess, in the group. And now this can all be 100% customized by the group admins. So like you can have as many tiers as you want, like verified tier, member tier, VIP tier, whale tier, God tier. I think that's the 5 default ones. But now partners, or like any admins of any of the groups of Topaz Dex bot, you can fully customize the names of the different tiers, the amount of tiers that you have, how many points your members need to reach those certain tiers. And what users with tiers can do is you can actually have a properly gated whale group. So you can create a new private group, and you can configure that with the Topaz Dex bot and say, okay, well, all of our users that are over whale status, they're all allowed to come into the whale group. So now Topaz Dex bot is going to actually gate that group for you properly. So your members that are above whale tier status, they're going to be able to request an invite to that group, and the bot's going to DM them if they qualify. And as well, once a day, the bot refreshes everybody's tier score based on their holdings. So with that, anybody that drops below that tier, so say somebody sold their position, they're going to get kicked out of the whale group. And this is something that you don't have to manage yourself. This is something the bot's going to manage for you once you set it up, and it's very easy to set up. So what else did I add to the bot? So the bot also has buy notifications. Buy competitions. So the bot has several different types of competitions that you can run in your group. One of my favorite ones to run is just like a raffle competition, like a buy raffle competition. So just say you run a competition for a week, maybe every $10 of a token somebody buys, they get a ticket. So if they buy $100 worth, they get 10 tickets. So what you can do with this related to user tiers is you can, for one, any user that connects their wallet, they can configure all kinds of stuff for themselves. So they can set a custom image for their profile. So whenever they do a buy, their image would show up rather than the regular group image. They can set custom names for themselves. So when they buy, it shows their name instead of a wallet address in the buy notification. So I forgot that users can do all these different things. The higher tier they are, the more they can do, like in terms of like if you want to hide all of your notifications. So just say you want to be able to buy the token without people seeing a notification of it, you can go into stealth mode with the Topaz DEX bot. And again, this is what you can do as a user. But going back to the buy competitions, if you're doing the type of competition that gives users tickets, you can set a multiplier so that higher tier users, they get more tickets. So they get like either a 2x multiplier or 3x multiplier. You can set all that stuff up within the Topaz DEX bot. So I definitely suggest all of our partners or any project that has an LP on Topaz, definitely get the Topaz DEX bot set up in your group and pop into the mini app and start playing around with some of those settings. And let me know any features that you guys want. We're thinking of really expanding what the Topaz DEX bot can do. Potentially even making it a raid bot in the future where it can fully handle X raids and tracking the raids for you. It'd basically be like a replacement for something like RaidShark or any of those raid bots. And the huge advantage of that is that now you could tie in community activity with score within your group, right? Because like a lot of people have asked me in the past, is raiding helping my score? Well, it's like there was no way to connect that in the past. So we're trying to bridge that gap and make it so that you can do raids through the bot and have your users benefit for engaging. All right, let's move on. So we had our first epoch of relays. I know we've had a couple of relay questions already, but let's pop over to our DApp here. So I believe I talked fairly thoroughly about relays last AMA, but I'll just go over them again and how they work and just kind of show you guys the results of what you can expect after being in a relay. So first of all, relays, you enter them with VE Topaz. Actually, let me share my screen here. I almost forgot. Yep. I caught that one just in time. So essentially you have Topaz, and what what we always recommend that you do with your Topaz tokens, or you buy Topaz and then you create VE Topaz. Now that's a locked Topaz position that essentially gives you ownership in the DEX. It gives you a share of the trading fees. It lets you vote to dictate emissions. That has been the case ever since Topaz launched. What relays do is they kind of manage that aspect for you, so you can get a lot of the advantages or all the advantages of having locked Topaz, but without having to manage it on a weekly basis. And again, we got over 2,000 viewers. So again, welcome everyone that's watching for the first time. Looks like everybody's coming in through the Topaz DEX X account. So definitely welcome everybody. If it's your first time here, throw a comment into the chat and let us know where you're from and if you're already participating in Topaz. But let me just to explain how this all works, just because again we have a lot of new viewers here. I've got a sample wallet connected here with my Topaz ID, and I'm just going to show you guys like the manual process of what you would typically do. So I've got a small VE Topaz position here. So what you would normally do if you're not using a relay is every week. I don't know if I actually claimed rewards yet on this. So that was a really small position. So if I didn't claim rewards yet, yeah, so I've got a tiny bit of rewards here, just $1. So I can just go ahead and claim this. So the other cool thing about Topaz ID, just to show you guys real quick, is typically when you claim, so I canceled, that's why it failed. Typically when you claim rewards, because this is bribes and fees, you would have two separate transactions that you would have to accept. And that's the case for every single lock that you have that's voted. So Topaz ID being a smart contract based wallet, it can actually batch transactions. So if I had 5 different locks here that had all voted, I would have 10 transactions I'd have to do to claim the fees and the bribes from each of those 5 locks. Sorry, my throat's kind of dry today. So for every single lock that you have that's voted that you want to claim rewards on, you traditionally have 2 transactions that you have to do, and that'll be the case for anyone that has a non-smart contract based wallet. So with Topaz ID, again, one of the cool things is my face is kind of hiding it, but there is a claim button here, and when I click that, you can see. Oh, you know what? It actually is doing. Because I canceled it the first time, it actually fell back to doing it separately. But if you rewind the stream in the future, you'll see that the first time that I did that, it actually said like 1 out of 2, and it just showed me the first transaction, and it just let me like toggle over to the second one just to basically you can batch as many transactions as you want all into one. So again, back to the example, if you have 5 locks that have all voted, you'd have 10 different transactions that you'd have to do to claim all the fees and bribes from all 5 of those locks. With a Topaz ID, you would just go continue a bunch of times and then press accept at the end, and it would just batch all that into a single transaction. But anyways, I'm getting a little bit off topic here. So that's I'm just going to show you guys a typical flow for if you have a regular VE Topaz lock. So again, here's my lock. I just claimed the rewards on it. So normally what I would do is I would come to the voting page, and I am looking at it based on total rewards right now. That's the default. So I would pick my lock, and I would say, there's a small lock, so I'll just vote on these 2. You'd pick whichever pools you want to vote on. It's probably good that I'm demonstrating this, just because again, we have a lot of new people watching. So you pick as many or as few pools as you want. You obviously have to pick at least one. So now I've actually picked 3. So I'll zoom out a little bit. So I picked 3. I picked the top 3 in the list here. It says ready to vote. So let's go ahead and press vote now. Sorry, my face is in the way. There's a vote button in the bottom right of the screen at the bottom of this little bar here that you guys can't see. But so now, sorry, maybe I'm a little bit too zoomed in. Maybe a little bit more. So once you pick the pool that you want to vote on, so I'll just go, like 40%, 30%, 30%. So once you've allocated your votes up to 100%, you can now just go ahead and hit the vote button, and simple as that, my vote's going to be in. And now I have voted. Let's just refresh that. My connection seems to be a little bit slow here today. So now you can see that it's showing on these 3 different options that my lock has already voted on them. And at the bottom, it's showing that all locks have successfully voted. So this is the typical process that you'd go through every single week as you take your, for each of your locks, you pick what you want to vote on, and you vote on those pools and gauges. And at the end of the week, or Thursday, when Thursday starts, you would claim your rewards. So what we've done with relays is we've kind of automated that whole process for you guys. So we've got 2 relays that work pretty differently. We got the Topaz Maxi relay, and what that one does is it's a strategy that's designed to grow your position of VE Topaz as much as possible. So what that does is, essentially people take their VE Topaz positions, they deposit it into the relay, which you can see I've got one deposited right here. And so this one was 212,000 VE Topaz. And because we just had an epoch rollover just yesterday, or this morning, I guess you could say, I've got a bunch of earned VE Topaz here. So what this does is it takes all of the combined VE Topaz that's been deposited, and it votes optimally to get the highest returns that it can based on all the voting options. And then it claims all the bribes, it claims all the fees, and the Topaz that it receives, it uses to auto compound into more VE Topaz, and all the other tokens that it receives as fees, so stuff like USDT, BNB, BTCB, it really depends on what it votes on, what fee tokens it receives, but it's going to receive all those major blue chips. It then takes all those tokens and it swaps them into Topaz, putting big buy pressure on Topaz, and then it takes that Topaz and it uses that also to increase the size of VE Topaz. So essentially, this one is just maximally trying to increase the size of your VE Topaz positions. And because of how bullish this is for Topaz and the Topaz price, and it's really beneficial for users. It's really beneficial for the Topaz ecosystem and the Topaz token. So what we're doing is we're putting extra incentives into this. So again, just to kind of demonstrate this for you guys, Again, we haven't put in bribes yet this week, so the rewards right now are like probably around like I don't know, maybe half of what they're going to be in a couple of days. But you can see like the VAPR of voting is like in the 60s right now, roughly. I mean, that'll probably jump up a little bit once the bribes come in. But you can see that the relay APR is showing much higher than that. Where was that? Oh yeah, 270%. I mean, part of the reason that's so high is that we did have a lot of people withdraw their VE Topaz. Some people like to withdraw their VE Topaz right at the beginning of the epoch, and they'll deposit it again closer to the end. Not sure why people do that, but I've noticed that in a lot of similar protocols. So, but essentially, you can so the base relay APR is going to be somewhat equivalent to what the voting options are paying out. But us as a protocol, we're putting additional rewards into the relay to give you even more on top of what it's earning organically by through its votes. So you're gonna the fastest way to build your VE Topaz position is always going to be like in the Topaz Maxi relay. So and again, with Topaz price being where it's at right now, I think it makes a ton of sense to be accumulating as much VE Topaz as you can here. And just the fact of the Topaz price being where it's at, all of the fees that have been earned by this relay, and again, those haven't been processed yet for this week. So that happens at it's going to happen in about a day or two with my automation. But all the fees that it collected with, I think there was like almost 80 million VE Topaz that was in here when the epoch flipped. So 80 million VE Topaz worth of fees are all going to be converted into Topaz, which is going to definitely be multiple thousands of dollars worth of buy pressure on Topaz. When does the relay actually place its votes for the epoch? Great question. So this is something that I have control over. So it's part of the automation that I have. There's a couple functions that have to be called on each relay. So one of them is like, oh, my battery's low on my headset. One sec. All right, that should help out. So yeah, there's a bunch of stuff that has to happen every week with each of the relays. So there's there's a function that claims all of the rewards, all the the fees and the bribes. There's another function that essentially converts all those fees into Topaz and compounds those as rewards. But then there's also the voting aspect of the relay. So I have all that happening at the same time right now. So that actually happens. Well, actually, I'm not going to tell you exactly when it happened, just because then people might game the all the thousands of dollars worth of buying that's going to happen to the Topaz token. But that's going to happen in the next couple of days, and it is all happening as a group right now. But yeah, I mean those don't have to happen at the same time, so I could adjust it in the future to maybe integrate AI into even further optimizing the voting choices, or maybe randomizing the times when some of those things happen. But if you place your VE Topaz into the relay before epoch and the relay has already voted, what happens? So great question. So basically, the short answer to that is it really doesn't matter at all when you deposit your VE Topaz, and it doesn't matter at all when the relay votes. And what I mean by that is, just say the relay votes right now, and we've had like we probably have at least 30 million VE Topaz that's going to enter this relay before the end of the epoch, maybe more. Every time VE Topaz is deposited into the relay, the relay itself does something like poking the votes, which basically updates its voting power for everything that it's already voted on. So if for example, if 38 million VE Topaz got deposited right now, all of the voting, all the things that the relays voted on would, get their votes doubled up essentially. So yeah, basically it doesn't matter when the relay votes or when people deposit their VE Topaz. When somebody withdraws their VE Topaz, it's reducing the voting power of everything the relays voted on, and vice versa when when people deposit into the relay. I think I did a horrible job explaining that, so my apologies, but can't really think of how else to word that. But yes, essentially, like everything auto updates in terms of the voting weight, whether you're depositing or withdrawing from the relay, it automatically updates in that transaction. Dane, hello, what's up, buddy? All right, so Yeah, so that's essentially the relays, or that's the first relay. And again, this one is meant to maximally increase your VE Topaz position size. So as a protocol, we're going to be putting extra incentives into this to keep the APR high and make sure that this is the best way to grow your VE Topaz positions. So this is where you want to deposit your VE Topaz just to grow that to the maximum size possible to have the biggest stake in the protocol as you possibly can. And I'll talk about the other relay in a second. Let me grab this question. This guy asked me to ask this here as well, but feel free to pick this up when you're off relays and on talking about LPs. Any chance to get an easier way to toggle between your Topaz LPs? Let's see. Right now, I have to click on the individual position, and then once in the LP, I need to scroll up to the top of the page to click on your positions to go back to the dashboard or LPs. Is there a way to create left and right arrows to go forward to the next LP or back to the previous LP? Also, is there a feature you can build that batches and claims all your LPs in one transaction rather than individual transactions for each LP? Some great questions. I guess while it's fresh in my head, let me just, I'll address these now. Yeah, so I mean, obviously, as you're aware, at the moment, there's no way to just toggle between your various different LPs. That's something we would have to index the LPs a little bit differently to like have the app aware of like, you know, when you're looking at a particular LP, you know, just say we have a way that you can toggle to the next LP, like the app has to actually know like which is the next LP. Yeah, that's something that we can definitely do. I have to just figure out the best way to handle that, or I guess my agent can figure that out. But I think that's something that we can do. In terms of batch claiming, that's where things get a little bit trickier, especially for traditional wallets. So kind of like I was demonstrating earlier with the Topaz ID, Topaz ID with its smart contract wallet, it 100% supports batching. So it can batch anything as long as we build that into the dApp, right? So like even if you have 100 LPs, we could, you know, essentially have a transaction builder that builds something that, you know, auto claims from all 100 positions. That would be no problem. With a traditional wallet though, that doesn't support batching. So that's kind of like why with our AI wallet, you know, again, we want to always keep things as simple as possible, but for our AI wallet, the reason that it can batch things is because it actually stores your positions in a smart contract where it can do, you know, it can batch as many, you know, operations as it can put together essentially in one shot. So yeah, I mean, I think we want to have, you know, as best support and integration for Topaz ID as possible. So maybe we will build something to batch in terms of LP fee collection for users of Topaz ID. But for regular EOA wallets, I don't really have it in the roadmap to move something like our AI wallet smart contract into the regular dApp. I'll have to get back to you on that one. I'll see if I can think of a smart, simple way to get something like that done. But great questions. Let me see if I missed anything out of everything you asked there. Yeah, so I think maybe the easier one to implement for now would just be to scroll between your LP positions, just to kind of maybe like give them a number, right? Just to say like, you know, your positions in the list are numbered and just being able to just, you know, scroll left and right or up and down. Or got a question about the relays here. So it simply amplifies the votes the relay has already casted upon the relevant pools. Yeah, like I think you know, maybe my explanation of that kind of like overcomplicated things. Like I think like the best way to look at it is no matter when you deposit your VE Topaz into the relay, or if it's already there because you deposited it in the previous epoch, the total amount of VE Topaz that's in that relay when the epoch flips, that's the voting weight that's going to be applied to those pools. I mean, it does update throughout the epoch. Every time somebody deposits, you will see, you know, like for example, I think there's about 8 or 9 pools that the relays voted on last epoch. So if there was a sizable VE Topaz deposit right now, you would see all of those pools, you would see the votes on those pools increase, right, like immediately. So yeah, I mean, it essentially doesn't matter when you deposit VE Topaz, it doesn't matter when the relay votes because, you know, basically it automatically updates the voting weight when anything is deposited or withdrawn from the relay. Let's talk about our second relay now. So our second relay is pretty cool. It's so So typically there was two types of relays. There's one that is meant for compounding, which is like our first one, which is, the Topaz Maxi. It compounds all the rewards into more VE Topaz. And then traditionally, like your second one would be like a claiming relay, where it worked very similar to the first one, but instead of compounding the Topaz into more VE Topaz, it would allow you to claim that Topaz out into your wallet. Now, this one is a little bit different. It's kind of like the best of both worlds in a sense of all the Topaz that it receives. So everything that it votes on, typically has Topaz bribes on them. So there's Topaz it's going to receive. The Topaz that it receives, my face is kind of in the way here. Let's see if I can, actually, if I make this a little bit less wide, maybe. No. Anyways, so you can kind of see here, it shows my earned amount of Topaz. So that's going to be VE Topaz that's compounded back into my position. But there's also a USD amount that's claimable every week. So what this is doing is all the Topaz that it receives, it uses that to build your VE Topaz position, just like the first relay. But everything that it receives in fees that's not Topaz, it's going to swap that to USDT and make that claimable for you at the end of the epoch. So it's like a zero sell pressure on Topaz. It's also zero buy pressure on Topaz, this one, but so it's basically Topaz neutral in terms of buy sell pressure, but it does give you USDT that you can claim out every week, and at the same time it is growing the size of your VE Topaz position. Just because it doesn't put buy pressure on Topaz, and the first, I think having as big of a VE Topaz position as possible is the smartest move right now. We're going to be incentivizing the first relay heavily. So we're going to be putting a lot of additional rewards into this relay to make it ultra beneficial to users to be involved in this one. The second one is going to be very similar to like what you would get if you were just voting yourself. We might put some, extra boosted rewards in there, but we'll mainly be boosting the Topaz Maxi relay. Is there any plan to provide transparency, visibility on relays vote in the DApp? It's something that we could do. I haven't really put too much thought into that. It's actually like public information, right? Like it's right in the contracts. You can see exactly, where the votes are. So it's something that would be very easy for us to expose. It's not something private or hidden or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, we could definitely show that. I don't really see a big reason not to. And again, like for anyone that's familiar, that's voted for a couple different epochs, you know that like typically by the end of the epoch, almost everything is paying just about the same amount of VAPR, which is essentially like your return for each dollar of vote that you're voting with. So because of that, it's not very difficult for the relays to vote optimally. They just take all of the high total reward pools and they kind of spread the votes out across those. So like last epoch, I think it was like the top 8 or 9 pools in terms of rewards. It voted on all of those, and it voted a couple days before the epoch finished. And because of that, it's all the other voters that essentially even out the VAPR. So it basically ends up voting optimally because it has a nice spread of across all of the pools that have big amounts of rewards. Hope that makes sense. Man, my throat's bugging me today. Having a hard time talking. Is it possible to claim each voting reward separately, maybe through AI? Is it possible to claim each voting reward separately? Can you clarify what you mean by that? Because like your voting rewards are on the dashboard. So do you mean like when you have a whole long list of rewards, you want to claim them separately, like on a per token basis? That actually is possible through the contracts because the contract call to claim is actually giving like an array or like a list of everything that it's claiming. So our front end is calculating like what rewards are available for you, and then it's putting together the transaction. It's putting together the transaction to claim all that stuff because typically you want to do things in the least amount of transactions, not extra transactions. So it's kind of already breaking it down to this, or not breaking it down, it's already combining it into the least amount of transactions possible to claim your rewards. But not really sure why you'd want to do it separately though. That's just gonna make more transactions. Can we transfer the locks without withdrawing from relays first? You know what? That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head. I think you might be able to. So, well, actually, I know like in our DApp, you wouldn't, you don't have those, the transfer option doesn't show on those. So you'd have to do it a different way than directly through our DApp. But I think you'd be able to. I can't think that there's any like check on a transfer that checks its status if it's in a relay before you can transfer it. But yeah, you would have to transfer that like through your wallet or through like the way that you would transfer a traditional NFT. Because like, as you guys can see on my screen, we have the transfer option for regular locks, and the locks that are in relays don't show that option. But actually, I guess I'll just add to that. Everything related to a lock is tied to that lock ID. So if you have like a bunch of rewards pending that you haven't claimed yet on a lock, if you sell that lock or if you transfer that lock to another wallet, those rewards follow the lock, right? They're associated with the lock ID. They're not associated with your wallet. So again, like I'm 90% sure, 95% sure, I'd have to look at the code to confirm. But if you transferred a lock that's in a relay, and for example, if you had unclaimed USDT, that would be claimable by, whatever wallet you transfer that to. I assume it, it works the exact same as a regular lock, but I can double check that after the AMA. Are there any protocol treasury owned positions of VE Topaz all placed in the Maxi relay? Nope. So the protocol itself, we have a whole page about the transparency of what the foundation's doing. But these, we want we try to, you guys know me, I do things as fair as I possibly can, and I always try to do things to benefit the community. So like with the relays, the way that we're putting in a ton of boosted rewards, it doesn't really make a ton of sense for us to like put our own VE Topaz into the relay to then give ourselves those boosted rewards. So, I have a tool that I built where I can vote with all of the foundation positions in a single transaction, and I can put together that transaction with ease. So the protocol itself is still voting manually and allocating votes where, we think, emissions are needed. For things like the stablecoin pairs that, don't generate a ton of fees. That's like a good example of where the foundation votes. I mean, you guys can just see right on our stats page in foundation, you can see exactly how many votes we made last epoch, how much bribes we've done, how many VE Topaz positions the foundation has, and exactly where all of our votes have gone. So yeah, definitely check out our stats page. We've made it a big point to be as transparent as possible with all aspects of the DEX, especially like what the team and foundation is doing with the foundation positions. And as well, we use these metrics as well internally, just so that we know, where our votes and bribes are being most effective. And, to every single week, we're analyzing a lot of metrics before we're doing the foundation votes and before we're doing our bribing for the week to make sure everything is set up optimally to get the best return on investment for the protocol and, of course, for our stakeholders, like our VE Topaz holders. So this is related to this question. Is it possible to claim each voting reward separately? For example, fees versus bribes. So that's how it works right now, actually. So again, most people would prefer to claim, like have everything batched together rather than having things separated. But right now, if you're not using Topaz ID, when you go to claim your rewards from voting, you will separately claim your fees and bribes, just because that's the only way to do it. Yeah, it's two separate transactions, one to claim the fees and one to claim the bribes. So with Topaz ID, it batches everything together, which is typically what people want. Hope that answers your question, or if not, maybe clarify, and I'll try to answer to the best of my ability. So that is relays. So I'm looking forward to in a couple days when the automation runs on the relays. We had, like I said, about 80 million VE Topaz that was deposited when the epoch flipped. So we have basically 80 million VE Topaz worth of rewards that are going to be used to buy Topaz on the open market and fuel the VE Topaz rewards for next epoch. And again, and like I said, we'll be boosting the rewards as well. So definitely a great place to put your VE Topaz. And sorry, I know I've already said this like twice already, but just the fact that the VE Topaz amount has dropped since what was in their last epoch, that's not alarming at all. It's a very common thing. People like to withdraw their VE Topaz and then redeposit it closer to the end of the epoch. And I think one reason people might like to do that is you can see here on my example position here, I have 212,000 VE topaz that I had deposited, and I gained 5,500 VE topaz. So I think the reason why some people withdraw it and then redeposit it is they just like to see this number added to this, lock number. So like, I'll actually demonstrate this for you guys. Just go ahead and withdraw this. So I had 212,000 that I initially deposited. So now you can see I have 217,000. So it added that 5,000 of rewards into my position. And now, again, what a lot of people are going to do is closer to the end of the epoch, they're going to go ahead and take their lock, and they're going to put it back in, like I'll do right here. And that doesn't look right. There we go. So basically now it's the exact same as it was before, except for instead of showing 212,000 as locked and 5,000 earned, it just combined that both into the same figure. So I think that's a lot of people like to do that. Again, not sure exactly why, but anyways, any questions about relays? All right, let's talk about vaults. We launched our vaults in the last week, and we have almost 40,000 deposited to our vaults. The vaults are, just to go over it real quick, they're just essentially ways to enter liquidity positions on Topaz, and it's an easier way to enter these positions and to have them just automatically managed for you. So, just by nature, what auto compounding means is that it's going to be taking the rewards that it receives and it uses that to build the size of the position. So what that does is it lets you take something that has, like, say, if we look at this one, it has a 394% APR, but the APY on that is 5,000%, and that's because of the power of compounding, right? So the APR is basically telling you how much you would earn over the course of a year, but the APY is saying, okay, well, if we're going to be compounding this position multiple times a day, you're going to be earning on a larger and larger amount as time passes. So that 400% APR ends up becoming more like a 5,000% APY when you factor in the power of compounding over a year. Now, of course, these numbers are based on the current metrics. This is crypto, everything changes. The amount of rewards going to this pool is going to change on a week-to-week basis. The value of the underlying tokens, well, USDT is not going to change in value, but Zcash is going to change in value. So there are a lot of factors that are going to make this so that this is just kind of showing you, based on all of the current numbers, what that would work out to after a year. Of course, in reality, it's not going to be this. It could be higher, it could be lower. A lot of things can change over the course of a year, but those are the figures as of this moment. And again, of course, all of our vaults show these figures. So yeah, I know, again, the other advantage of vaults is that concentrated liquidity can be intimidating for some in terms of setting your range and what you do when it goes out of range and having to rebalance it, having to compound it is a bit of a pain, right? Like again, we do have our AI wallet, which makes a lot of this stuff a lot easier. You can do some of the stuff I'm about to describe, you can actually do in a single transaction using our AI wallet. I've demonstrated that in a bunch of different AMAs. But essentially, like the typical process to compound a concentrated liquidity position is, you'd have to do all of these separate transactions. You'd have to claim your Topaz rewards, that's your first transaction. You'd have to unstake your concentrated liquidity position. You'd have to then swap Topaz into the tokens that make up your concentrated liquidity positions. That's 2 more transactions of swapping tokens. Then you'd have to do another transaction to add liquidity to your concentrated liquidity position, and then you'd have to restake the position. So this is something that, again, our AI wallet can actually compound numerous positions all in a single transaction. So that's really cool. You guys should definitely check that out. And maybe I'll show that real quick. We're starting to run out of time here. But that's at ai.topazdex.com. So actually, I'll demonstrate that super quick here. So I'm on that same Topaz ID. Yep. So I've got a couple of small example positions here. So I got 4 in-range positions, 1 out-of-range position. So I can say compound all 4 of my in-range positions. So I'm getting a little bit off topic here. I just kind of had to demonstrate this for you guys since I was talking about it. So this is going to put together a single transaction that's going to do, what was that, 6 or 7 different transactions just to compound 1 LP, staked LP position. This is going to be compounding 4 positions, and so that'd be like 28 transactions, and it's going to do this all in a single shot for us here. So you can see there's quite a bit that it's going to be going on here, and this is showing me like what the simulation results at the end. So let's go ahead and submit this. So that's done. And my favorite part is looking at the transaction after. Oh, it didn't load in yet. But you can see there was 43 token transfers. There was 8 NFT transfers. And this basically compounded 4 separate positions. So it basically did like, what would have taken, 15 or 20 minutes to do manually, it did that all in one shot. Now back on track. Sorry for that slight slight detour on the topic there. The auto compounding vaults are basically doing that for you. They're claiming the rewards and they're building the LP positions, and they're also keeping that position in range for you. Again, keeping positions in range is also something that our AI wallet can do. Like, take my or rebalance my out of range position, and this is going to be able to then put that one position that I have that's out of range and put it into range for us. And again, this could do this on as many different positions at once as you want. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's execute that. But again, the auto compounding vaults, you don't have to worry about any of this. It is handling all of this for you. We also, actually, I didn't even include this in my notes, but we also had a ton of updates to our AI whole infrastructure this week. Actually, maybe I'll talk about that next week just because we've already been streaming for an hour now. But yeah, our AI, I think I did talk about this a little bit last week. It has full memory now. I'm not sure if you guys noticed, but when I jumped into this chat, it had all of my memory from my last conversation. If you open up a new chat, it will just reset it. But yeah, if you just jump back in here, it's going to have a memory of your previous chat. It's also going to remember key things about you keyed by your wallet address. So if you tell it like, what your name is, actually, I'm not sure if I did. What is my name? Let's see if I told it my name. I think I did that, but I'm not sure if I did it on this wallet. Yeah, your preferred name is Aaron, right? So it pulled that up from my memory because I told it, I said, hey, my name is Aaron. You can call me Aaron, right? And it just like your typical agent with memory, right? It's able to memorize things about you and your preferences, whether you like higher risk stuff or lower risk stuff, or just anything that's important about it being able to interact and help you better in the future. It's gonna remember that stuff now. As well as you can manage VE Topaz through the AI wallet. There's been a ton of improvements here. I actually should have probably included a big segment about this in the AMA today, but I forgot about that. So my apologies. I'll dive into all this stuff next week, but definitely play around with this. Of course, like everything else in the ecosystem, it works with our Topaz IDs. So yeah. So yeah, Vaults is available at vaults.topazdex.com. I am working through one minor issue with the vaults. It's not like a security issue or anything serious, but when you zap into some of the vaults, I've noticed it can sometimes give you a reverted transaction, basically meaning like the transaction is not able to be executed. If you are experiencing that, just reduce the zap amount, the amount that you're zapping in. I am going to be directly getting this 100% resolved. I thought I had it resolved, but then I noticed that some of the vaults were still doing this on some larger zap-ins. So that's something that I'm going to be addressing in the next couple of days, and that won't be an issue anymore. But if you do get a reverted transaction when you're trying to deposit to the vault, just reduce the amount that you're zapping in, and that should resolve that for you. And again, it's not a security issue or anything. It's just it's calculating the minimums. It's basically saying like one of the outputs is not going to be as high as it wants it to be. So again, it's not a security issue. It's just a bit of a pain when it happens when you want to deposit and you have to lower the amount. So that will be addressed in the next day or two. But again, don't get worried if you see that it's not. Your funds are always safe. We don't put anything out to the public that's not 100% safe, and that I'm always happy to put my name on anything that I deliver for you guys, and you can have confidence that it is safe and secure, and that it wouldn't be here if it wasn't. So how come Vaults isn't accessible from the main DApp? Oh, I keep forgetting to add that to the menu. I just got to add that to the menu. Actually, I'm going to put that in my notes. I'll do that right after the AMA. Yeah, there's no particular reason for that. I just forgot to add it to the menu there. All right. So something else, I'll show you guys a quick preview. This isn't quite done yet, but this is a quick look, and this is running on my local development server, which is quite slow at the moment. But this is a quick look at some updates that we're doing to the Topaz ID or the Topaz portal. This actually looks like it's a little bit too slow to even show you guys right now. Perhaps to restart the dev server. But yeah, okay. Well, anyways, these updates are going to be live in the next day or two. We're doing some really big things here in terms of the Topaz ID. A lot of really exciting developments here. We're going to be having a lot of additional apps showcased here. We're adding a whole social aspect to Topaz ID. We're adding in, for anyone familiar with like Abstract and the Abstract Global Wallet and the way that you have XP that you earn weekly and you have tiers that you can progress through to get certain benefits within the ecosystem. We're going to be building all that into Topaz ID. And actually a lot of that's already built and it just needs to be tested a little bit and then shipped. But one of the things I wanted to showcase to you guys is we've had a community members built a really excellent launch pad that launches tokens directly on Topaz. And the beauty of launching with a launch pad that launches on Topaz is you can actually claim your fees, your trading fees. So let's show that to you guys. Tassel.meme is the web address. They've already had one successful graduation. And shout out to Willie. He did a great job building this. And again, this just shows the power of what you can build on top of Topaz. I think for the most part, he just took advantage of the Topaz agent skill, which has all the details about how to build on top of Topaz, all the Topaz contracts, how to interact with them, everything that your agent will need to build on top of Topaz and be able to do stuff like testing against a fork of mainnet, which is like a really great way to test all your functionality because it can actually like test things against the live production contracts, but like in your own isolated environment. So it's not like using real funds or real tokens, but it can actually test like a fork of mainnet is basically like a copy of mainnet that you run locally. So it's able to do all its tests that way. But yeah, definitely check out our Topaz agent skill and check out tassel.meme. And if you're thinking about launching a token, this is where I would recommend for you guys to do it. And again, these graduate directly to Topaz, and you're able to claim trading fees for your launches after they graduate directly on the Tassel meme website. Again, shout out to Willie, great build there. This will be added to our Topaz ID portal where we show a list of apps. I'm in the middle of a ton of like huge updates to that. So once those updates go live in the next, that's maybe later today, they'll be going live. We'll have tassel.meme as one of the apps listed in there. I'm in USDT Solve Vaults. There's been 140 rebalances so far. Do we really need that much rebalances? Isn't each rebalance cost us swap fees and realized and permanent loss? Why not rebalance only when out of range? Great question. So there's a lot of different ways that concentrated liquidity rebalances can occur. I opted to go with a method that I was heavily influenced by Beefy Finance. Kind of like as you mentioned swap fees, right? So a lot of auto-managed concentrated liquidity positions, they swap to rebalance. Our auto compounding vault actually doesn't swap to rebalance. What it does is I'm going to try to not get too complex here, but excuse me. What it does is when it rebalances, it basically has like two concentrated liquidity positions. So if we look up if we look at a rebalance transaction here, yes, I mean this one rebalanced 4 times in the last hour. Wow. You'll see that there's actually 8 transfers of VE, or not VE, of Topaz concentrated liquidity positions. So it maintains a main LP, and then it maintains a secondary LP, which is like the leftover tokens. So let's just, let me give you an example. Let's just say we were doing like USDT and BNB. The vault starts out at exactly 50-50. Now, as soon as the positions within that vault start to get lopsided towards one side or the other, what the rebalance is doing is it's making a new position when the rebalance happens. It makes a new position as big as it can, 50-50, and then there'll be some leftover tokens. So those leftover tokens get put into like a single-sided LP right up against the current price, so that as soon as the price moves the other direction, now both the primary and the secondary are both in range and earning. And then once the price drifts enough back in that direction, it will do another rebalance, which will get more tokens back into the main LP. This has advantages and disadvantages compared to, I'll just say auto compounding vault that rebalances with swaps. Of course, if there's swaps, it could wait longer to rebalance. If ours waits until it's out of range to rebalance, there would be no tokens to farm, right? Because everything would just be 100% of one token. So you'd kind of have to use the swapping style rebalances if you're waiting that long to rebalance. So ours are rebalancing way sooner than when it's fully out of range, just because, again, we want to rebalance while we still have some supply of both tokens because it's not doing swaps. So I think the answer to this is that our USDT, like any of our vaults that are on pairs that are not correlated whatsoever, so something like USDT Sol, where it's not, those are not correlated. Obviously, you have a stable coin, then you have a volatile, blue chip crypto. I think we need to set the ranges a little bit wider on the USDT, the vault positions that have, or the vault pairs that have USDT, just because they're more volatile. The prices fluctuate more. So a slightly wider range on those, with maybe a little bit looser rebalancing, like letting the price get a little bit further off the center before we rebalance. I think that would be a good idea. I actually had a request yesterday to have some of our slightly correlated assets, like our BNB BTCB vault, to have that actually in a narrower range so that it could earn a higher APR. So I think there is some fine tuning we can do there. So I think, yeah, I do think our USDT asset vaults should have a wider range and less frequent rebalances, and we can probably tighten up some of the other ones as well. But great question there. Thanks for the repost. How's it going, Daily Grind? All right, moving on. So that is most of what I had for you guys for today. One thing I forgot to mention is that with the Telegram bot updates, a lot of you guys are probably aware that we have a whale group. And this whale group is one that we've had going for quite a while. We're using it as our Topaz Dex whale group at the moment. But this is back from, before Topaz existed. So we actually have, the bot that was the inspiration for the Topaz Dex bot, which is our old GBlue bot. That's actually the bot that's gating our whale room at the moment. And we're going to be making some changes to the Topaz Dex whale room or whale group. What we're going to be doing with that is, we want to get a lot more of the conversation that's happening in the whale group. We want to get that into the Topaz Dex main chat, just to get it, more lively there, more activity there, and get a lot of the alpha that gets discussed in the whale group. We want to get that out in the public so that everybody can see that and kind of get access to that information. And there's a lot of great questions that get asked in the whale group that we want. I think it'd be better for that to be asked in public and answered in public as well. So we're going to be switching our old whale group. It's no longer going to be gated by the old GBlue Telegram bot, and it's going to now be using our new Topaz Dex bot to gate that whale group. And unfortunately, a lot of the members that are in there are probably not going to qualify after those changes are made. But I think it's going to be beneficial for the whole ecosystem and Topaz as a whole to get a lot of that conversation moved into the public Topaz TG group. So again, the change that's going to happen is that we're going to be gating the whale group with the Topaz Dex bot the exact same way that our partners are able to create a whale group and gate that with the Topaz Dex bot based on user holdings. We're going to be heavily weighting VE Topaz. So the more VE Topaz that you have, the better position you're going to be in terms of making it into the whale group. So that'll be happening in the next day or two. So my apologies to anyone that does get removed from the whale group. It's going to be a smaller amount of people that are in there, because I think it's just more valuable, again, for a lot of the conversation to happen in the main chat. And I think the whale group is more beneficial, and it can be more of a whale group as opposed to I'm not even sure what to call it, but right now it's like a whale group. I feel like a whale group for one, I'm like not a huge fan of them because I like everything to be out in the public in terms of communication and alpha drops and just questions and answers. I think it makes a lot more sense for that to be out in public. But when the whale group is smaller and just the really larger holders, there's things that you can coordinate with whales, whether you want to get some buy pressure on topaz and you want to coordinate those things. I think that those sorts of discussions work better in a smaller, tighter group of like the actual real whales in the protocol. So again, my apologies for anyone that doesn't make it in once the changes are implemented. But again, I think it's going to be beneficial for Topaz as a whole to be making those updates. So yeah, again, that'll happen in the next couple of days. I think that's pretty much what I got for you guys. I mean, I think there's a lot of AI updates that I want to go over, but I'll save that for next week's AMA. I am curious how we got so many viewers today. We have 3,200 people watching us through the Topaz Dex X account. So again, welcome everyone that's new. Hope to see you guys again next week. And definitely, you guys are all watching on X. We have our weekly BNB season X space that happens every Tuesday. So definitely set your notifications for that and make sure that you're following the Topaz Dex X account to see when those are happening. But yeah, and again, for anyone that missed the very beginning, I'll just show this real quick, showing off a bunch of the Topaz Dex features and what you can build on top of Topaz Dex. We built this as a demo to showcase all the cool things you can do with Topaz, and this is going to be kind of our showcase project that we show off as we introduce the hackathon that we have coming up. Really excited for the hackathon. We'll talk. That's something else that we'll discuss a lot more next week once we've solidified a lot of the details around it. But yeah, we're planning to get a ton of projects, a ton of new projects, and a ton of new builds all in the Topaz ecosystem. Whether that be like just utilizing the Topaz ID, or innovative ways to take advantage of our custom fee capabilities, or any of the other our gauges and voting. Like there's just everything that you can do with Topaz that you do on the Topaz DApp is something that can be done through contracts. So there's really no limit to like what you can build on top of Topaz Dex. So this is just demonstrating a couple of the things that you can interact with Topaz. But yeah, in terms of the relays or VE Topaz or voting and voting rewards or gauges, and again, this heavily interacts with Topaz LPs, but it's using a contract to claim the fees and buy and burn the 44 token. But you could build something on top of Topaz that takes that LP and stakes it in a gauge, and maybe it automatically manages rewards, or there's really no limit to what you can do. Just let your imaginations run wild. But any great ideas that you guys get, you might want to save it for the hackathon that we got coming up, or you can just go ahead and start building. I know when I get ideas, I always just like to dive in and start building right away. Looking forward to more alpha. You know it. If your viewer count has gone up, hopefully this will replicate on your token. Yep. I mean, again, like I've always said, like, what does Topaz need? Well, we need to, just get out there. We need to get as many eyes on Topaz as possible. And we need to keep, demonstrating ourselves as a team and making sure that our web presence shows, the professionalism of Topaz, and that, we really are here to stay. This is a forever project. This is, my favorite project that I've ever built, which says a lot because I've, built quite a few projects over the last 5 or 6 years in the space. And of course, I'm talking about Topaz Dex. Even though I got Burn 44. I mean, I'm super pumped about Burn 44 too. I think it's really cool, the ways that it integrated Topaz, and I recommend that you guys check this out if you haven't. I'll post the web address in the chat for you guys. But yeah, anyone that missed the beginning of the AMA, I'd recommend rewinding back and checking it out just to see what Burn 44 is all about. It's kind of like a gamified, permanently deflationary token that does not have a token tax. It does this all through fees that it gets through Topaz with dynamic fees. And it's got a cool contract address with 5 4s at the beginning and 5 4s at the end. But anyways, guys, I think that's it for today. I got an exciting AMA coming up for you next week, and I hope to see you guys all in the Topaz Dex community. You can find us on Telegram. I'm very active in the Telegram there if you have any questions that come up after the stream. But otherwise, again, welcome everybody that tuned in for the first time. Still 3,300 viewers, so that's like 15x what we typically get on these AMAs. So I've got to find out what changed this week to get us so many viewers. But again, welcome everybody, and I hope to see you guys on the X space on Tuesday next week. And next week's AMA. They're always Thursday at 1800 UTC. So yeah, again, thanks everyone for all your support, and let's keep pushing the word about Topaz. I'm going to keep building. I'm going to keep the team on track, and we're gonna take this thing to the moon. And it's great. We've been number 3 for volume on BNB chain, and I know that our goal's been to take that number 2 spot, and we're going to keep doing everything that we have to do to get us there. So thanks again, everyone, for tuning in, and I will see you guys in the community and see you guys next week.